All right, guys, I've been following, Sarah, you've been all over the place this week, but I know you watch. We've been following this TikTok story very closely because it is fascinating, to say the least, in terms of where things stand and where they're going. Right now, of course, and I'm sure we'll hear over the course, perhaps, of the day from Emily Wilkins in D.C. in terms of where things stand in the Senate, how quickly a bill to ban TikTok in the United States there will be created. Will it be part of the appropriations bill? You know, you look for Maria Cantwell and Mark Warner from Virginia, Maria Cantwell from Washington to play a key role here, as well as Lisa Monaco from the DOJ, I'm told. But again, I'll defer to my colleagues in D.C. for the latest there. What I can tell you, though, is that, the Journal reporting today, and I've been bringing up any number of times, the likelihood that the Chinese are not going to say, okay, ByteDance, you can sell this. And you can sell it along with, by the way, the algorithm and the source code. Now, you can make your own algorithm, but you need at least some time to be able to copy the source code. And I went back 3.5 years. I found my notes finally after a bit of a search from 3.5 years ago when we were going through all this. Back then, it was about 10 million lines of code. Now I'm told it could be as much as 40 million lines of code. It could take a long time to conceivably to copy that code. That said, large language models apparently make it a bit easier and more possible. But the problem here is that while Steven Mnuchin may be interested in buying it, or perhaps there'll be some others out there that certainly might be, you're not going to get a chance at this point to actually do so. And so we are left with the real possibility that if the Senate acts and passes the bill, and President Biden, as he said he would, signs it, and then there's some time period and there potentially is litigation nonetheless, that this actually could disappear in the United States, as hard as it seems to imagine, because what you're buying without the source code or access to the source code is virtually impossible. Obviously, you'd like the algorithm as well. Steven Mnuchin addressed this on Squawk Box yesterday when he was asked about, well, what do you do if you don't actually get the technology? Take a listen.
Proposals they've blocked because they were not happy about the technology transfer. And I would have to convince them and the U.S. government that there was a way to do this.
And that continues to be a key question. You know, there's been some talk about Bobby Kotick as well, the former, of course, CEO of Activision being involved. You know, I think the sense, frankly, that I'm hearing is, sure, if there was something to do. He was involved the last time 3.5 years ago, along with Oracle, along with Walmart, along with Microsoft, when they all sort of were thinking about what they could do here as a ban seemed potentially possible when we got that executive order from then President Trump to ban it. Not right now. I mean, there's nothing seemingly, Mnuchin may be out there and may be able to raise some money around it, but you got to actually have a deal that you can do. And so we'll keep a close eye on the Senate and how quickly this bill moves.
For sure. And, it's so interesting because I can't get away from the idea that this is all happening at a moment, arguably, when TikTok's financial growth rate and kind of cultural sway might be peaking.
Yeah.
This is the way these things tend to go.
It's very, of course, 170 million users here in the U.S. Still not profitable. Again, I've talked to any number of people now who say because they're spending so much money on Project Texas, which has been all about moving all the data to the Oracle servers in Texas. That costs a lot of money. That said, there's a belief that if the Chinese were to allow the technology transfer, the thing could be worth $100 billion. I mean, you're talking about something that could be generating, just from an ad business, at least $5 billion in operating income, let's call it, over 5 years from now. Put a multiple on that and figure it out. ByteDance itself, though, extremely valuable regardless, and there doesn't seem to be quite as much pushback this time from some of the owners of ByteDance around all this because they have such dominance, not dominance, but such a significant position in the Chinese market that's added so much value overall. And by the way, remember last time there was a ban, there was a talk, it was Australia, U.S., New Zealand, UK, it was all the English sort of speaking TikTok that would have been involved. That doesn't appear to be the case so far this time.
There's also the users and the influencers who make a lot of money, and the celebrities, and TikTok is waging a pretty active campaign getting them to call their senators right now and lobby against this. And I do wonder if we're going to continue to hear political opposition on things like First Amendment really heat up.
And, of course, finally, the big beneficiary, if this were to happen, would have to be Meta.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt.
That's what President Trump says.
That's what President Trump says. And that seems to be apparent.
Vertical short video. They created Reels just for that. So.
The chief of staff of the president, Jeff Zients, was a board member of Meta's. Just saying.